Captain's Log, Subdate 200817.8. Never skip leg day. There has been a case ongoing for over a year now, and this particular case is quite tricky. It's tricky because it concerns an 8-year-old boy whose mother is trying to transition him, even though he himself doesn't want it, going so far as to use the courts to get this done. I have made 2 videos in the past on this called Savejames and Savejames Update. I'm going to play relevant clips now from those videos instead of referencing or recommending you go back and watch them, but I will of course link them anyway, picking out the best bits that best summarize what has happened since April last year when I made my first video, to November last year when I made the follow-up, to now, July 2020. You will notice the avatar is a bit different. My sincerest apologies for that. But if anything, it's a great example of how times have changed, and how we on this channel have evolved. For the sake of referencing, I will put the title and the date the video was released in the top left corner of each video. Now, the subject we are going to cover confuses me a little, and I'm going to provide a little backstory for why I'm covering it in the first place. Yesterday, in the comments to the video, I received a tip requesting I go to something called Savejames. There is a petition involved, and the petition I thought at first was a Poe. In fact, I thought the whole thing was a Poe because, quite frankly, it was too ludicrous to be real. I mean, what parent would want to willingly, knowingly reassign the gender or chemically castrate their child because they want a girl, or they believe their son should be a daughter? I don't like this notion that people get to play God and their children are the pawns. After some digging, I found a few sources, but not many, which is why my belief it was a Poe stood. So I reached out to some people who I know are in Texas, and they managed to confirm it. It is in fact real. A mother is trying to chemically castrate her child to socially transition and then actually transition to be a girl. What? So the first thing I found after finding the petition was a video on Facebook, and I'm going to play it because it's an interview the father, while he's busy fighting for custody of his child, did on radio, and there are a couple comments he makes in that video that are really, really telling.
I want you to imagine having electronic communication with your son on FaceTime, and imagine that your ex-wife has dressed him as a drag queen to talk to you. He has false eyelashes and makeup, his hair's got glitter in it, he's wearing a dress. Now, imagine how you would feel seeing what I believe is actual sexual abuse. I believe this is not just emotional abuse, but is the very most fundamental form of sexual abuse, tampering with the sexual identity of a vulnerable boy. Every single day, you have to see your son sexually abused, and you have to maintain your calm. You have to be the one who's calm, because the courts are not going to be fair to you. And the only way you can survive this and get your son through this alive is to calmly allow your son to be tortured right before your eyes and outlast the opposition. That's what it's like.
The glaring comment that Jeff made was how utterly biased the courts are. The way he addressed how fathers are treated in courts is a damning statement for how unfair and unequal society is when it comes to parental custody. To give a little insanity backstory, the mother started renaming her son James Luna at the age of 3 and dressing him in dresses. Now, I don't really take issue with what kids wear, but it's when you start to push towards a transition when they're not even old enough to make any kind of decision for themselves. You start to what most would call brainwash them into thinking, yes, that is what they want. Now, I get it, some kids in certain circumstances, because there's going to be one retard in the comments telling me, oh, education's biased and brainwashing and religion is brainwashed and biased. I know. Context, though, matters. Education is important, as is making an informed decision, which normally comes from education. Hard to be educated if your parents are force-feeding something into you. The job of a parent, by the way, is to protect you, to raise you, not to brainwash you, to show you what is right and wrong, make sure you have a solid moral compass, and you are the very best version of you to live a good and fulfilling life. Now, okay, that doesn't actually work for the majority of people. I have no doubt the majority of people here have daddy issues of some kind, but I do believe the majority of you get the point. So to add more to this story, because it really confuses me why a mother would do this, the father is losing the right, potentially going to lose it entirely, because he refuses to agree with his ex-wife that his boy is transgender. Anne, the mother, is a pediatrician and claims in a petition that she is seeking to terminate the parental rights of her estranged husband, Jeffrey, that their son is a transgender child and by choice now goes by the name Luna, and is only known by her classmates as a girl, which they don't. The classmates and the parents of those classmates don't know at the all-girls school that James is in fact male. That of course raises questions about whether or not transgender kids could be there, but I would argue at the age of 6, that's not really something one should be pursuing in any sense of the imagination. I have had somebody in the past who is trans critique the sources I used because the sources came from a religious background. However, the information on that page was accurate, so it didn't matter where it came from. I don't care to character assassinate somebody just because the source may be a bit questionable. If the source is correct, it doesn't truly matter. And I would argue, children, no child, should be put on any kind of puberty blocker, go through any kind of hormone replacement therapy or chemical castration. None of them. Those organs are still developing. The recent court case that took place was to decide whether or not Anne would get full conservatorship over the child James. The reason why is because she wanted to transition her son, she being a doctor, and then got 3 medical professionals to also diagnose the child with gender dysphoria, to Luna. Now, she had originally won this, but a Texas judge has since ruled that both parents have conservatorship over the child, which means they must make all medical decisions together. Essentially, Jeffrey can now simply cross his arms and go, no, deal with it, because he believes that his son is simply confused, and that is quite common among children. Why take an unnecessary risk now and use unnecessary procedures now, have access to unnecessary medication now? Why bother? Why prep them for something when children can change their mind like that? There is no point, especially if the child is not making the decision for themselves anyway, which we now know for certain because, and this is the update to it, James has decided to attend school as a boy. Now, James could be just conforming to societal standards, being too ashamed to be the big, beautiful him that he is meant to be as Luna. Or it's more than likely, since his father has repeatedly shown proof and evidence that his son just wants to be a son, and that his mother is trying to change him into a girl, that his mother is being ridiculously manipulative to get something that she wants, because all she wants really is a trophy. On a post to Facebook, the Savejames page no less, a picture was posted with the caption, "Going to school, this is what it looks like when James gets to choose, affirm this," which also included a photo taken before church. James and Jude, proud to be men, save James, save thousands of children. One of the big accusations to come from Jeff, aimed at Anne, was that she was trying to force her child to transition socially by making her child wear dresses for her own sake, or for her own benefit. Photos updated on website here, you make your own mind up. With Judge Kim Cooks ruling that both parents have joint conservatorship over James transitioning, both parents have to make joint medical decisions, which does include hormone therapy. They also have joint decisions over haircuts, dental, psychiatric care, which will also be mandatory. Jeff and Anne also both have to go to counselling. Just before the ruling was announced, Jeffrey Younger told the Daily Mail that he was not expecting a good outcome, being quoted as saying, "I'm not anticipating a good result for my son. I don't think I'm going to be able to stop the social transition of my son, which will probably lead to his medical transition." This all began when Anne decided to get greedy back in 2018 to change their joint custody arrangement, which required Jeffrey Younger to refer to their child as Luna. I am somewhat surprised, by the way, that the other son has remained unharmed in all of this. It should also be noted that when they went through the IVF route and used a surrogate, Back in 2012, they intentionally requested their baby's gender be male before the birth. Oh boy, that's a lot of dodgy audio to listen to. I do apologise. Times have changed. I think in the first video I was using a snowball. I had to boost the audio on my end just to make it clear enough. The second one was fine though. But that avatar though, right? I actually like it. Well, we have another update to this case. For this we're going to refer to a Facebook post from the Savejames page. James and Jude, the brothers, did not have a victory in court today. Judge Mary Brown has condemned James and Jude to a life of therapy, confusion and abuse without even having a hearing. There are no other words for what has happened today. She has forced James to live as Luna in a school surrounded by teachers and therapists who do not acknowledge that he has said multiple times to multiple people that he wants to be a boy and hates being forced to be a girl. She has forced Jude into a stressful existence of constant lies and misery as he watches his brother get destroyed before him without any hope for an end to this madness, and won this battle without even a hearing. Because of this, Anne now has the sole authority to enroll James in a school as a girl named Luna, and have him undergo transgender medical procedures. The reason this all happened, by the way, instead of what happened in the update from November, is that Anne's lawyer filed a motion to have Judge Cook's replaced in November of last year, after Judge Cook shared a Facebook post in which she shared an article from the Dallas Morning News writing, "The governor nor any legislature had any influence on the court's decision." The motion was then granted and Judge Cook's was removed to be replaced by Judge Mary Brown. That ruling, by the way, was the one that made it so that both parents had to make medical decisions for James and his brother Jude. Because of this, there is a financial issue, and that is that Jeffrey Younger has exhausted his money. So much, in fact, that he has to raise money now through various outlets, a link in the Facebook post. I'll even link it down below to help continue this, because this did not go through a hearing, which means this was done behind closed doors, which is really, really weird. To me it is especially. This has to be done publicly because it's already been put on blast. You have senators, congressmen, actually politicians in virtually every area of society saying, no, you shouldn't do this. Granted, they're all Republican, and there is an odd silence from many Democrats, but I'm sure many do in fact support this. So going forward, there will of course be a drafted response, additional hearings, and consultation fees with more lawyers to try and get this decision reversed, because a joint custody is the correct way forward. If the father is not there or the mother is not there, then yes, you have an argument for sole parent guardianship and all that. Otherwise, you have two parents who both want to be in the lives of their children but are very different in how they want to raise their child. Here's the solution, and I mentioned it in the first one. Don't you dare transition a child until they are old enough to be an adult and they can make the decision for themselves. And you asked to have a boy, and you're transitioning them, which paints a rather damning picture of you. I'm not a fan of the mother in this, for obvious reasons. With what we've discussed, I do apologise that not much of it has featured myself. I'd love to know what you think, so please do let me know in the comments down below. If I don't see you on Twitch tonight, have a fantastic Monday, and thank you all for listening.